Hey guys, we're going to be moving into chapter 8 here where we're going to be talking about transformations. And so the first transformation that we're going to look at is translations today. So what you're going to learn is to graph and describe translations in the coordinate plane. Here's some vocab, so go ahead and pause and write all of this down. First vocab word is a transformation is a change of the position, shape, or size of a figure. If a shape is changed in any which way, it is a transformation, is what we call that. A translation is a specific transformation that moves each point of a figure the same distance and in the same direction. And we call that where the orientation doesn't change. For instance, if I take this and I slide this triangle down, as long as the orientation doesn't change, in other words, this side was on the bottom, it's still on the bottom, then that is a translation. Sometimes you hear this called something, you'll hear that called a slide, okay, kind of just a general term. If it slides somewhere, then that's a translation. The figure you get after a transformation is called an image of the original figure. To identify the image of point A, use prime notation, that's A with a little apostrophe, and then you read this as A prime. All right, so go ahead and start trying to use that language when we're working on these problems in class and on your checkpoints and various other assignments. So let's keep going. Daily funny. I know he's a zombie, but hey, at least I found a guy who wants me for my brains. That's what we're all looking for, right, ladies? Someone who likes you for your brains. That dude is totally creepy. All right. Graphing a translation, it says triangle PQR has vertices of -5, 1, 1, -1, 4, and -2, 2. Translate triangle PQR 6 units to the right and 3 units down. And then what are the coordinates of point P prime? So the first thing that we need to do is draw this triangle. So I'm going to change my ink color here so that it's easier for you to see. So P, it says, is -5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1. And I'll label that P. Q is -1 and then 4. We'll call that Q. And then R is -2, -2. All right, so there are my vertices for my triangle. Now I just need to connect it. All right, so let's go in that order. So I'll go P to Q to R, and then close it up. So there's triangle PQR right there. The translation here tells me to translate it 6 units to the right. That means for each one of these points, every point that's on the triangle, not just the vertices, but every point that's on this line, it's going to go to the right 3 units, and then it's going to go down 3 units. That's what this says to do. So for this to go to the right 6, I will start with the Q. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then down 3. 1, 2, 3. And there is my first point, which I'm going to call Q prime. Then from there, I'm going to translate R. And for that one, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right, and then down 3. 1, 2, 3. So here's R prime. And then P, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. That gives me P prime. And what I get is a figure that is congruent to my original. Can't see that prime because of the line. So P prime, Q prime, R prime is the figure that we get right there. And then it says, what are the coordinates of point P? Well, point P is 1, -2, or P prime. All right, so we would write P prime, and then what its coordinates are. So 1, -2. So here is the first part of the question, draw it, and then what is the coordinate? So that's how we graph a translation. Here's one for you to try. Go ahead and pause. The answer will be up in 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, I apologize for this. I noticed I made a mistake. I don't want you doing 6 to the right and 3 down. I want you doing 4 units to the left, 5 units up on the U-try. So answer will be up in 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, I apologize for that minor mistake, but here's what I got after the translation. So here's the image of PQR. And then P prime is going to be -4, 7. That is what I found, so double check yours against mine. Let's keep going. This thing called arrow notation is used to describe transformations. For example, the first one we looked at, the arrow notation would be take the x unit, since it's going to the right 6, I would just add 6 to that. And since it's going down 3, I would take 3 away from the y coordinate. All right, so this right here is a way to write a rule to describe a transformation. In a translation, you are either adding or subtracting, depending on if it's going right or left and up and down. So let's go ahead and put this to use. It says, write a rule to describe the translation on the black triangle to the blue triangle. So here I'm going to look at R, and I'm going to start out with my x, y. It's always going to start like this, x, y, and then the arrow. Now from here, I'm going to say what I do to the x coordinate to get to the other x coordinate. So here I have R, it's at -3. And then I go, to get to this, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. So I'm going to add 4 to the x coordinate. And then to get down here, I go down 2. So whatever the y coordinate is, I'm going to subtract 2. Or you could think of this numerically. How do I get from -3 to 1? I add 4. How do I get from 3 to 1? I subtract 2. All right, so this is the rule in arrow notation. This is going to be what I'm looking for. So for each one of these points, this rule will work. Notice if I take this t, -2, and I add 4 to it, I get the +2, which is where t prime is. If I take its y value 1 and I subtract 2, I get to -1 for the y value, which is where t prime is. So that's what you're doing for this. Here's one for you to try. Go ahead and pause, and the answer will be up in 3, 2, 1. All right, there it is. That's what I got. So if you got something different than that, you need to go back and check your work. That's it for today's short video. You're welcome. I hope you took good notes, and I will see you in class.